Hello and welcome to this edition of The Assessment. We are here today with Chris Cebollero in the beautiful Lake Placid at the ISC conference. Chris is a speaker here today. He just got done with the keynote speaking as well. So Chris, can you kind of explain what are you doing here, what you're teaching, and also how you got into EMS? I know it's kind of two big questions.
It's kind of big broad, isn't it? Yeah, but here I'm talking about our personal and professional development. One of the things that we do is, especially if we're leaders, is we think about our workforce. We don't take a lot of time for ourselves. We don't think about reflecting on the things that brought us to where we were. We get to a point of where we are in our career, and then we become stagnant. We stop and we stay there. But why do we stop? We've got to be able to continue to keep going. So I really enjoy the opportunity to come and give some pearls of wisdom to discuss personal and professional development and the components that go into that and how to keep yourself on track. I became a paramedic in the early or the mid 80s, and I was actually in the United States Air Force.
Wow.
And I was doing some training that got me along in the to become a paramedic, and then I stayed in the Air Force for 12 years, and then kind of just when I got out, went into the civilian world and worked up in the Northeast of the United States. I worked out at MedStar in Fort Worth.
Okay.
I was a chief of EMS in St. Louis, Missouri, for a hospital-based system, and it's been a pretty good career, man. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and there's no better job than sitting in that ambulance and responding to people's calls.
Yeah. And speaking of that, what's one call or incident that in your time in EMS or in the military that really sticks out to you?
I don't know that I don't like to carry those things with me, those calls, but I think that the calls that have given me the most joy is where I've felt that I've made a difference for somebody else. We have the knowledge, we've got the skills, we've got the expertise to make a difference in what could be the worst day of someone's life. So what we need to now is be able to put those into play and make a difference for somebody. So there's not one call that stands out, but there are a couple where, I felt that I've comforted somebody, or I've given them the reassurance, or, given them the opportunity to feel better about where they were, going to a hospital, transporting in an ambulance. And I think that's what's given me the most satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you were talking about your classes earlier, just talking about how people need to improve and make sure they're not getting stagnant. What's the importance of that? And why have you kind of discovered that's where people need to go?
I think that's who we are as people. I mean, we do things that make us very, very happy. We're going to go buy the new iPhone 10. We're going to go but how long before we get tired of that iPhone 10 and we want the 11 or we want the 12? This is just a normal process for us, right? So it's called the hedonic treadmill. And what makes us happy today is going to make us sad tomorrow. So a lot of times people will say that I'm stagnant, that I'm lost, or that my life isn't going anywhere. Well, it's because you're not moving it forward. To understand the components of what go into that really kind of give you the opportunity to say, I want a vision, I want goals, and I want plans to reach my goals, and it kind of moves them along. I mean, again, the law of process is that we continue to grow. Leadership doesn't grow in a day, but it grows daily.
Yeah, it's the small things, really. Absolutely. So, Chris, if someone were to come up to you and ask, why should I join EMS? What would you tell them? How would you encourage them to pursue a career in EMS?
I think EMS is really making the best part of somebody's worst day. And you've got to be able to have an understanding of how to make those components happen. A lot of times ego gets into EMS. To be successful as a provider, as a caregiver, you really have to be able to be empathetic. You've got to be able to put yourself into somebody else's shoes, and you've got to be able to treat them how you would want them, want to be treated, or how you want your parents or whoever to be treated. And I think if you want to get into EMS, you take your time in the process of doing it, and you go to a good school, but you continually read. Once you start school, it doesn't mean when school is over you're done. Right. This is where that just gets started. And same thing with paramedic school. They cram all this stuff at you in a period of a year or so on, and then we think that we should know everything there is to know about EMS. I've been doing it since '85, and I don't know everything there is to know about EMS, but I challenge myself to continually learn and continually have better skills than I had yesterday. So the secret is join, learn, and continue to learn, and make sure that you become the best that you can be. Because when a mother hands you a 3-month-old that's in cardiac arrest, that's not the time to figure out you're not comfortable with that arrest.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And certainly things like the ISC conference are ways to do that. Are there any other ways you encourage people to continue their education in EMS?
I think that there's a lot of things. I mean, in the digital age, we can go anywhere. I mean, Google's got tons of stuff to, the EMS ones and the EMS worlds. I mean, they have great education. Think about some of the podcasts that are out there. Inside EMS is a great podcast. And, just find what it is that makes you happy. Just because I say podcast doesn't mean you're going to get anything out of it. So go to classes, go to conferences, read. I mean, a lot of times we're sitting around in the ambulance and we're waiting for the call to happen. Pick a month that, this is going to be my cardiology month. This is going to be my respiratory month. And then read something every single shift and challenge yourself to, really expand your knowledge and then expand your experience and skill.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, Chris, do you know, are there any resources you could offer people to learn more about how to keep growing in EMS?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of great books. I mean, and, we've got to get outside the thought of EMS. So there's great books out there. If you want to think about professional development, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership are good. If you want to think about self-help, there's tons of great self-help books that are out there. But don't just lock yourself into EMS. Right. Get outside of EMS. One of the things that I share with people all the time is to say, find a mentor inside EMS, but find one outside as well. And then this way you can kind of learn that as well. Yeah, but this is your gig, man. This is your opportunity. Where do you want to see yourself, and what gives you the best opportunity to reach that vision you have for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not, when you learn this for your work, you also learn it for your family too, like outside of that. So it's not just work related. It's not just EMS. It's a lot of things pertaining to that as well. So
I agree.
Excellent. Now, Chris, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? I always like to ask people that. Do you see yourself continuing in a teaching path, or still doing EMS, or pursuing something else?
It was a lot of work, man, to become a paramedic, and I don't know that I ever want to give it up. I certainly enjoy teaching. I certainly enjoy being an ambassador to the EMS field, and I want to be able to continue about that. I'm not a young fish anymore, so I'm getting up there in years, and I got to start thinking about where my next phase is. And hopefully, in 5 years, I'm going to be in the point of kicking my feet up on a boat somewhere and enjoying a little bit of retirement. But I always want to keep my hand. I think the opportunity to guide, to coach, to mentor, to be a role model, to be an educator will always be there. I get to do it on my terms then. But that's what I see for myself in 5 years, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, excellent. Well, hopefully we see you back here as well at the ISC conference in 5 years as well. Well, Chris, thank you for your time today. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos. Check out Chris. If you ever get a chance to listen to a teach, absolutely do it. And as always, check out the ISC conference. Be sure to come next year if you get the opportunity. And as always, have a great day.
Audio Jungle.